I've gotten great feedback on it. Make sure you thank Amy and the planning committee. They did an amazing job making sure that event went really well. I don't know what he did with those birds, and when he ripped one in half, it scared me to death, but it was a great show. My daughter was the one that got called up on the stage, and she was about to throw up. And afterwards, I came down, and she kind of had her head buried in my wife's shoulder, and I said, "What's wrong, baby girl?" And she said, "I was so nervous." And she had like some tears welling up in her eyes, and I said, "Well, it's over, it's fine." And she goes, "Well, when it's over is when you cry." And I'm like, "Well, okay, yeah, you didn't cry on stage, so." And then she was convinced that I had set it up, which I did not. Nobody had any idea who he was going to pick, so. All right. Anybody's first time at one of these Meet the Manager meetings? Yeah, a couple people? Okay. So what I like to do is start off with just some quick notes, and then I just open it up to questions, and we get started. So 1,086 memberships in the vault currently. As you heard, we're going to be doing a sale. I've had some questions because during the board meeting there was a question about maybe bumping that timeline, doing it sooner rather than later, so people could use it for Christmas gifts. We're still looking into that. We haven't made a decision on that yet. But a lot goes into making sure those vouchers, whether we do it digitally or by printed mail. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, I heard a no, so I'll go through it real quick. So at the last board meeting, it was decided to have a sale on memberships. And the way this would be set up is we would mail out or email out, we haven't decided yet, a voucher. And that voucher would have your membership number, your name, and you're allowed to claim one. There'd be 1,000 spots that could be claimed. So the first 1,000 are the ones that get the deal. Currently, memberships price are set at $1,500. This coupon would allow you or somebody else to buy a membership for $1,000. So you would give that to a friend or a family member and say, it's a $500 discount. They would then come down and redeem that at the sales office when they buy their membership, and then we are going to track who's turned those in. And once we reach 1,000, it's cut off. So just to be clear, you can only use one, and we'll be tracking. So if somebody comes in, if you print 10 coupons and say, first one to get their wins and give them to your friends and family, whoever shows up first, they're the only one that can redeem that. And then once we hit that 1,000 mark, we would cut that off again. So I think it's going to be a great idea. I think we're going to get those memberships out of the vault and earning the park money and get new memberships in, which is all great things. So.
Is there going to be a deadline on?
Is there going to be a deadline? We have not set a deadline. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a year. My hope would be that those are claimed before the deadline, but yeah, we would certainly want to cap that at some point, I would think. So, yes, ma'am.
If I get a coupon, Sarah gets a coupon, I'll give mine to my kids or something. She doesn't want hers. Can she give it to me? It has her number on it. I could do it.
So her question was, I'm gonna try to repeat all the questions so that it's we're recording these and posting them now. So if I don't repeat the question, sometimes people can't hear. So if I forget to repeat the question, kick me. So her question is, she has a voucher, right? She gives it to a family member, and then the person sitting next to her also has a voucher. She's an owner, but she doesn't have any friends, or just doesn't want it. No, I'm just kidding. She doesn't want to use it for whatever reason. Can she give it to another owner? Absolutely. You can give it to whoever you want to. I think the idea is to get people in here and get those memberships moved. So yeah, absolutely. We just, one member, one ownership can only claim one voucher. So we'll be checking that. So any more questions on that sale? Yes, sir. Where do you get the voucher was his question. So right now, as plan sits now, which we're looking at possibly changing, they're going to be sent out in January with the due statements. So you would get them in the mail. That possibly could change where we do an online voucher sent through email, and then if you contact us and say, I didn't get the email, don't want to mess with email, I want a paper voucher, then we could send you one as well. But that hasn't been decided yet. As of right now, the plan is to send a paper voucher out with annual dues. It may not be in January, and it may not be paper. It may come earlier than that, but we'll update you guys on that.
If someone pays their 2025 dues early before they get the invoice, will they still get the invoice and the coupon?
So his question was, if somebody pays dues early, which is always a great thing, feel free to do that, will they get this voucher if they're not getting a due statement? And the answer is yes. So I would like to send out a statement to every single person, even if the balance is zero, you're paid up, okay? So you should receive that communication. So if you're sitting in there in February and you've not received anything yet, call me. Let me know you haven't received something, and we'll make sure that you get it.
And that 1,000 includes 25 dues. What else does it include?
That 1,000 includes 25 dues. What else does it include? Yeah, that's all inclusive. Yeah, that's everything. So her question was, you know, is there going to be additional fees on top of the 1,000? No, it'll be $1,000 just like when you go in to buy it at 1,500. So. And get in here and be like, and now it's a $500 transfer fee. No, no, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that. Any other questions on that piece? One other thing to recap real quick, the Halloween event after the annual meeting was awesome. The day before we had the annual cookout. What an amazing turnout. Do we have a count on that for sure? I don't know if we do, but I mean, I must have served 700 people. It was intense. So don't quote me on that, but it was a lot. It was a lot of people. And the staff worked really hard. The board worked really hard to grill those hamburgers, and they were a big part. Well, they planned that, and we just kind of jumped in and helped. So, and then the Halloween celebration was awesome. We got to utilize our new fire pit out there, and that was great. There's nothing more cathartic than sitting in front of a fire. Like, that was amazing. I could have sat up there all night long. Matter of fact, I think I was out there until like midnight, or at least 11, sitting by the fire. So exciting stuff. The trail ride was amazing. If you see Annie, she's the programs manager, let her know how awesome it was. If you have any ideas for next year, she would be the person, or Amy, to talk to about that. So, but all in all, a bunch of really exciting events with a great turnout. It was great to see all the families running around. It's very cool. Woo!
Awesome.
All right. Any other, so those are my updates real quick. Questions, we'll open it up to any questions about anything. Yes, ma'am.
Did we finalize any bids on the roof?
Did we finalize any bids on the roof? Yes, and that's another point that I forgot. Thank you for reminding me. The newsletter will be going out Monday. That's going to have a whole bunch of information, recap of the event, what staff we recognized at the event, and volunteers. So be looking for that. It'll probably be late Monday when it goes out. And I have a draft here that I can't let anybody see because it might change. We do have a volunteer day coming up the 7th and 8th, which is also in the newsletter. So if you're interested, get with Amy get with Wally. So operations@tlresort.com, and that'll be in the newsletter as well if you're interested in helping out.
Has there been a newsletter go out?
Well, it's going to come out Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to come out Monday. And we had talked about doing a monthly newsletter. I think we're leaning more toward every other month now. It just seems to work with the schedule better, have a lot of content, and not just be repeating the same thing every single month. So that's the goal. So your original question was, did we finalize the bids? We absolutely did. We finalized the bids. We went with Branson Springfield Roof Co., which is a local company here in the area. The owner is an owner here as well. So that's very exciting. We're going to be sending a letter out. When I first started, I had people say, you know, just if you were to ask for a donation, we would make a donation. We would happily make a donation. And I think there's been hesitation in the past. And I know at one point we sent something out, but it was considered an assessment. And I may be speaking wrong. This was before my time. And according to the bylaws, we can't assess you and say, you know, you under most circumstances, there are a few circumstances where we can. We can't just say, hey, now you have to pay us $50 this year. Sorry. And if you don't, there's consequences. And I just want to make sure you guys understand that's not what this is. When I first started, people said, if you told me, hey, here's the price of the project, and here's how many members we have, and divided by the number of members, here's the amount. And I had one guy say, I'd pay it twice. Well, that's what we've done. So this will be included in the newsletter as well. It's a letter from the board that actually goes through each of the bids for both the pond and the roof. So the repairs of the clubhouse, indoor pool and welcome center, the roofs, that bid was $97,671.69. And phase 2 pond restoration and beautification is right at $30,000. So the quote itself for the pond, the outside contractor we're using is $25,000, and then $5,000 for beautification once it's done. So we want to tear down the current dock that's there, rebuild something, work on that fishing station. There's been talk about possibly a boardwalk next to the road as well. So those are all things still in the works being planned, nothing official yet. But so this letter will go out, and it basically says, hey, 6,414 current members divided by the $127,671.69 is $19.91 per owner. So yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So this will come out soon. Again, it's not a you have to, it's a please do. Now, the other question that I get is, Stephen, you just said at the annual meeting that our financials were looking great. Why do we need to donate anything? Well, we want to rebuild our reserves. At one point in time, we had $1 million in cash reserves, and that's where, honestly, we want to be sitting. I mean, if you look at that chart that I showed, at 1 year, we were down to like $30,000 by end of year. That is scary. I mean, cash in the bank, a little over $30,000. Our bills most months are more than that. So that's a very scary position to be in. We never want to be there again, but we also want to be able to reinvest back into our park. So this is a way that we can keep that cash flow looking great and also do the necessary repairs. And if you don't have it, it's fine. It's not a big deal. If you do have it, please donate. If you want to donate twice, please do that. The other question that has come up a lot is, well, Stephen, how do I know that that money is going to go to that project? And this goes back to kind of rebuilding our financial policies and procedures, how we track things. As most of you probably know, starting in January, we're phasing away from Abacus as far as being our accountant. So we've hired somebody in-house, excuse me, that's going to ensure that we get one, accurate data and more timely data. Because I've had people say, you know, we're 2 months. September financials have not been released yet. The reason why is when I sat and looked at those financials, there are massive errors. There was a double allot, $20,000 for the fireworks. We booked that a year in advance, right? They had put that in there twice. Mistakes like that, like really big. We're not talking small amounts, big amounts, and they're also in the wrong categories. So it takes us time to go through that with a fine-tooth comb. And even when we do, we still find stuff, you know, a month later that escaped us the first. So that's going to allow us to have more accurate financials in a more timely fashion. And to get back to my original point was, in doing that, we can very easily create on our balance sheet a line that says, you know, capital improvement projects, donations. So restrict that, meaning that it's restricted on the balance sheet. We can't use it for anything other than those capital improvement projects, okay? So, yes, sir.
The graphs you had in the meeting were one heck of a lot better than Abacus crap we've looked at before.
Let me rephrase that. Let's see. The financials presented at the annual meeting were a lot better than we've seen in the past. Yeah, great. Yeah, I appreciate that. I was nervous coming in because I didn't know how much information to give. I'm a numbers guy, so I love to see that stuff, but I know most people aren't. So I didn't want to drown everybody with a bunch of information, but I also wanted to hit the key points. The feedback that I've gotten so far, and if you feel differently, please come up and let me know, was that it was a good balance. You know, the key points hit, keeping it simple, but everybody has the big picture. So, and then of course the financials, even though they're a couple of months behind, are always available online for you to really dig into if you'd like to. Yes, sir.
The graphs you showed at the annual meeting, are they going to be in the newsletter coming out?
Are the graphs that I showed in the annual meeting going to be in the newsletter? So we've got the draft, and we're ready. Monday we're planning on posting. Currently there are no graphs in there, but I do have the numbers that I talked about during the annual meeting. What do you think? I'm fine. Okay. I don't want to like blow Amy up and be like.
Well, at the meeting, you know, it wasn't time to digest everything.
Yeah, a lot going on. You just saw a dove ripped in half. Yeah. Did anybody not coming at one point? Rick Thomas got on the stage and he manifest this dove, and then all of a sudden he does like this, and the feathers go like this, and he rips it in half, and there's two, and I was like, oh my goodness. So you see that, and then you try to digest financial information. I could see how that, yeah, mine wasn't quite in that spot. I get that. We can look at adding the graphs. The numbers are in there that I went over, but the graphs are not as of now. So,
Steve,
yes, sir.
What number are you comfortable with having reserves?
What number am I comfortable with having reserves?
Yeah, you said 30,000 is low. What's the proper number?
So if you were to ask most nonprofits, and this includes 501c3s, on average, most nonprofits only have 3 months of operating capital in the bank. That's still scary to me. You know, I would love to see us sitting at 700,000 just comfortably.
That covers for 6 months about then?
Well, that's an interesting question because the way that our financials work is we're seasonal driven, right? So we have a lot of income, but we also have a lot of expenses, and so it would depend on the time of the year. If you would do just like a cash flow analysis and you would just look simply at the average, which is what we've done in the past. As an organization, our budgets are not true to what we're spending, and it's not true to what we're earning. It doesn't take into account that seasonality. So they would say, we're gonna spend 120,000 in X category, divide that by 12, that's our monthly budget. Which doesn't work very well because you're sitting there going, we're way over budget. Well, yeah, we're way over budget right now, but we're going to make that up. So the budget we're building this year, which we're right in the middle of budget build, is going to be month to month. You're going to be able to see, you know, if we're way over budget on something, it's not because it's a timing issue. It should match pretty closely. Now, budget is only good on the first day, right? I mean, after that, things happen. My goal is to ensure that we may be off in this category, but we're going to make it up in this category. And I don't mean to say that we're going to put it in a different category, which I've been told has happened in the past, either accidental or on purpose. If we're over in a certain salary line, hey, we're over in that salary line, but we've made it up in this area, so our bottom line is going to stay the same. So that's going to be my goal, is making sure that bottom line stays true. So, was there a question on the floor that I just completely forgot to answer? If so, raise your hand. Okay. Sometimes I get rambling and talking. Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. You know, I think our budget is our #1 priority, as it should be. And I think as owners, we're very, very happy with our board and management for being on top of this. And we share your values and goals because that's our values. We want our park to be here long term. We also realize that our staff are the ones that really are just as important as anything on our park. And so I just during this time, you know, any complaints I've heard has been from staff. They've suffered the brunt of the cuts.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so, you know, I just, long term, I want to see our staff as being valued to be worthy of pay and benefits and anything that anybody that's employed anywhere else receives. So when we're in a better position, I hope they get better care.
I hope I stood close enough, Amy, to catch all that. But to summarize real quick, he's very happy with the board and management and their decisions to ensure that the park is in a financially stable position so that we can be here for generations to come, which I agree with 100%. His second point was he feels like a lot of the cuts we've suffered on the staff side. So our staff are underpaid, and aren't getting the benefits that they might need to continue working here. So his message is make sure you take care of the staff when we're financially able. And I agree with that 100%. We've got some amazing people that have been here for a long time. When I first started and started looking at our HR processes, they were lacking. They were lacking big time. So we're in the middle of rebuilding our HR department, and Tammy Stouffer's a big part of that. On my whiteboard, I've got some really big topics, and then kind of next steps and things that need to happen to ensure that we reach our goal. We're in the middle of our long-term planning process and our strategic planning process, and that is going to be a topic of conversation as well. We need to make sure that we take care of the people that we have, that we retain them, that we find qualified people to fill the voids that we currently have, and there are some big shoes to fill. Brad did an amazing job, and he's got some big shoes to fill. So finding the right person is key, and some of those benefits and the culture of the organization plays a huge part in retaining people. So that's top priority for me as well. I think the board shares that. They care about our staff, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they're taken care of. I wish I had like a 14-point plan for you. At this point, I don't. But it's simple things we've not done in the past. Something as simple as reviews. Hey, what are you doing really well? What are some areas you need to improve in? And in the grand scheme of things, what I'm looking for to eventually build, which is going to take some time, we didn't have a lot of job descriptions when I first started. So right off the bat, hey, people need to know what their responsibility is. Doesn't mean that you stand there and go, that's not my job, but hey, this is your main focus, right? After that, we need to have a solid review process and performance raises and cost of living increases for people as well. And then what's called an individual development plan. That's something we meet on quarterly. So after the review is done, hey, here's all the areas you're knocking out of the park, here's some areas of growth. We sit down and say, okay, these are the areas for growth. You can't get there alone. How can we help you? Do you want to take a class? What professional development resources can we ensure that we afford to use so that you can better yourself and do better? We meet quarterly on that and track progress. And it's not something that like a manager just develops and hands somebody, here's your individual development plan. It's something you sit down and build together. So they're building that relationship and they're working toward ensuring those goals. Now those goals, here's the really cool part. The goals in that individual development plan tie directly to our strategic plan and our long-term plan, so that every employee knows I am bettering myself in this way to ensure that we can hit this goal for the team, so that this department goal is hit, so that this organizational goal is hit. Everybody's got a clear path of how they're contributing to ensure that Treasure Lake is continuing to improve. So, yeah. We're not there yet. Like we're on step 2, job descriptions, but we're going to get there. It's going to take some time, but we're definitely going to get there. Whew.
I have a question.
Yes.
Not with the financials, just another one.
Okay.
Can you explain to me, and we're new, what about people leave their RVs in storage, but then there are those that are actually left on the faces. How long can they leave them, and are they leaving them because they can't get in long-term storage? What's the deal with that?
So she's saying we have long-term storage and people have their RVs stored there, and you're saying that you also see other people storing their RV on park for long periods of time.
Yeah, inside.
Inside. That shouldn't happen. So there's 2 reasons that an RV would be sitting there empty. One, they were on the tow list and they're a holdover, so we towed somebody coming in versus towed them back to storage. Or 2, I believe it's 72 hours. 72 hours is how long you can leave your camper like unattended, okay? After that, you get a slip of paper on your handle that says, hey, you're violating the rules. If you see somebody if you've noticed a camper that has slipped our eyesight, please let security know.
I thought we drove through last year and there were lots of RVs left in
Well, there's winter storage. Okay, yes. Now, so that's normal operating. We do have winter storage, okay? So phase 3 is where we're doing winter storage this year, which means if you want to winterize your camper and bring it to phase 3, you can pay a daily fee to store your camper over the winter.
So is that the only place they will winter storage?
Phase 3, yeah. And the reason that we didn't say just you can store it in 3 or 2 or wherever you want is one, we need the work done in 2. One is where people are going to be camping. And a big concern was, something that I heard was security had a hard time distinguishing which ones were being camped in versus being stored. And then I've been told, nobody would ever do this, but I was told that people would come on the storage side of things. They would camp in their camper, paying the storage fee, which is different than the full hookup fee, and then leave it's in storage. So they would have to pull that camper out of that phase into phase one to camp and then bring it back to storage.
How long can they leave something in winter storage in a phase?
Till March.
Till March?
Yeah.
So they have to be back to March?
Yeah, March is kind of when we return to normal operations. So, yes, ma'am.
I saw people complaining yesterday about phase 3 and said it has already begun. Has it already begun? And they said they had them marked where they couldn't park there because that was for winter storage. Has that already begun yet?
I know that a lot of people have moved into phase 1. I don't know of any ones that are marked, but that doesn't mean that they're not marked.
They said they were tagged and they couldn't park in any of them. But I don't know. They were just.
Okay, I know we did shut down some next to the pond. Sorry, that's phase 2. You're talking about phase 3. Huh?
Phase 3 is what they said.
Phase 3 is
I
what
don't
they
know.
said. I can check into
But
it.
there's plenty of other spaces in one, my goodness, and other,
Yeah.
But they said they were tagged and they couldn't get in them, and they
Okay.
wanted in them.
I have a lot of conversations. I'm trying to recall, and I don't want to misspeak, but I'm pretty sure that the plan was, as people moved out of those sites, they marked them, because we're getting so close to that time where nobody has to move anymore. Most people are moving to phase 1 and staying.
What's the date on the beginning of that, really?
November 1st is, you no longer have to move.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
On the 72-hour thing, to answer her question, there are instances where people have a family situation, sickness,
Yes.
problem with their RV. Friends of ours this summer had a problem with their slide out, and Brian said, whatever you do not move this because your slide out could fall out.
Yeah.
So they got permission to extend.
Exactly.
I mean, they were still camping, but there are instances, we've been behind some people who had a family person that was on deathbed, and they were in and out and gone for more than 72 hours. So there are situations where management can say, hey, you're cool.
Yeah, and I think since I've been, so to recap his point more than a question, is that there are times when somebody will be not at their camper for a longer duration than the 72 hours. If you don't come and talk to me and get permission, then you might end up with a ticket. So I've done that 5 times, I think, since I've been here, and most of them have been very serious medical emergencies, like, hey, I've a family member is sick or hurt. There's extenuating circumstances, and if you come chat with me, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm here to serve you as an owner. If you say, hey, I've got this extenuating circumstance that's going to prevent me, and I'm going to be another day past the 72 getting back, I can give that permission and ensure that there's no action taken against you for not being in your camper longer than that 72 hours. So great point. Yes, sir.
Related to that whole thing, I'm just curious as to why there's a 72-hour rule, because, like, if I take my camper over to winter storage, you get $2 a day for winter storage, or temp storage, I mean.
Mhm.
But if I leave it on the pad, because I'm gonna come back next weekend, you get $15 a day while it's on the pad. Wouldn't it be more financially impacting of the park to let you leave your camper on the site and pay the $15 if you're gonna be back in a short period of time? Because it's a lot of work for those who have motorhomes to
Pack everything up, yeah.
hook everything, take it over just for a week, and then you're gonna come back the very next weekend. So what I did is I scheduled my time to come back Wednesday evening, so it's not empty for the 72 hours, because I don't want somebody saying, hey,
Yeah.
you were gone 3 days. Well, mind your business, first off. But secondly, I don't understand why that rule is there, because it would be more financially impactful for the park if you wanted, because you still can't leave it there more than the 21 days
Yeah.
before you have to move it, but it would be more money for the park if somebody wanted to pay the $15. I get during the July 4th timeframe when it's really super busy, you don't want a bunch of empty campers, but during the slower times, why is that rule in effect?
So to recap, his question is, why is that rule a rule? he's pointing out that if you were to go use temporary storage, the park would make less money than if they just let them pay the $15 a day when they're gone out of that site, as long as they don't go over their 21 days. That's a great point. I can see that during the busy times that could be an issue. I think there are people that, if you're on a desirable site, according to you, and there's somebody else that has the same outlook, I think that's why the rule was originally there. It was before my time. I also, the staff doesn't make the rules on their own. So if that's a rule that you would like to see changed for the financial benefit of the organization, then please feel free to reach out to a board member, send me an email, I can forward that along. You're gonna have some amazing explanation that I didn't think of, huh?
Yeah. The reason for the 72-hour rule is so that what you're saying, I want to use this campsite multiple times when I'm not here, that's unfair to the first come, first serve. We have to honor first come, first serve. So we need that rule.
So again, going back to that, it was if you're gonna leave your camper for multiple days, say a week, and then come back and camp, you're taking up a spot that somebody else could have camped for during those 4 days or 5 days that you were gone. Which, like I said, I think that's why the rule was implemented. But I do see the other side of the financial side of that. Of course, if
Premium side though too, because if I'm parked in the back.
exactly, it's different for everybody. Exactly.
But that's what I'm just trying to say. Is
Yeah.
If somebody else was there camping, if I was actually in my camper, you would get that site anyway.
Yeah.
But I got there first, so I'm in that spot
Yeah.
for my 21 days. It shouldn't matter if I'm physically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'll send you an email.
And well, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. You're saying, well, it is first come, first serve. I showed up, I tagged it, I put my RV there, and then I was gone for 5 days, but that shouldn't matter.
For this month, I'm going to be here every single weekend.
Yeah.
But I
Have to
make sure
travel.
that I will only be gone enough time that I don't have to move my
Yeah.
RV because I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So I'll be coming down Wednesday evenings to make sure it's not empty for more than 3 days. But
So this is a great example where I don't want to make that call. I want the ownership to say, hey, this is what we think, because there's two sides of that. So let's have that conversation.
If he did that, a lot of people would do that, and there'd just be people sitting empty. I mean, you'd come in and all the prime spots are taken.
Yeah. I certainly see the other side as well.
I
So,
understand this point of view.
yeah.
I don't agree with it.
So to sum that up, I don't have an answer for that. The Rules Committee is meeting currently, so if you'd like to see a change of the rule, please email the board and let them know, hey, I see this happening, and it's something that we need to change, one way or the other. Yes, sir.
These newsletters that are coming out, future newsletters,
Yeah.
are they gonna be sent out to all the membership or just added to the website? Because we can each individually go to the website and you can pick it up, rather than the organization sending it out to everyone.
Yeah.
via email.
So
Will
just
they
as,
are they gonna come individually?
Are they
or
gonna come
are we just
individually,
gonna go to the
or are you gonna go to the website and download it? So we are planning to post this on Facebook, the website, and email all of our owners.
Oh,
On top of that, we typically have copies at the front desk, so if you're stopping by, whatever the latest newsletter is should be available at the front desk.
I see.
Yeah. Balloon the airwaves.
Because it bothered me that I heard that the board had an election and elected officers, but it was only put out on Facebook. And I went to the.
It's on the website.
Do what?
It's on the website.
Well, yeah, I went to the resort, that's the name of the damn way. I went to the website and they were there, but there was no notice, other than Facebook, that they had done it.
Yeah, and that's a failure on my part, so I'll go ahead and take the heat on that one. The way that everything kind of fell, I was off that following day and right after that meeting, and next year I'll do a better job at ensuring something gets posted that everybody can see along multiple channels. So my apologies for that.
Oh, well. I just was curious.
Yeah.
The problem with the communication, the way I see it, not everybody has an email. Not everybody is on Facebook. So if it's sent out Facebook or email, not everybody's gonna get it. And if it's sent out snail mail, it's gonna be a big cost to
Yeah.
Treasure Lake.
Yeah,
And so if it's put on the website, in addition to these others, then everybody should be able to see it with minimal cost to the park.
yeah. So again, he's talking about those channels that we use to convey information. We are working on the 2025 marketing plan now to hopefully get a really clear, like, this is what gets posted where, when, why, and how. So for instance, we might be posting stuff on Facebook kind of as it happens and not sending out a mass email, but we send out the newsletter via mass email that's going to be a roll-up of all the stuff that happened, and we're also posting that newsletter on Facebook as well, so that everybody gets the information. You're right, there's a huge cost to send anything out via paper through the mail, and we don't want to do that and we're trying to get away from that more and more, honestly, with the electronic voting, which is something we're trying to get ratified. So yeah, we've not done a great job at communication in the past. We're doing everything we can to get better. I know I've received some feedback from people. I appreciate that. Continue sending that. I want to make sure that all of our owners can get the information that they need. And I'm hoping that our website at the end of the day should be the one-stop shop for anything if you're actively searching for something and wanting to consume something. We should also be sending stuff out via email to proactively communicate as well.
And that's a good point. On the website, it's like the last newsletter.
It took us a
I remember
while,
the date
yeah.
was like September 14th or 13th that it went out email. It wasn't posted to the Treasure Lake website until after the end of the first week of October.
Yeah, yeah. So he's pointing out that the newsletter went out via email but did not get posted immediately to the website. That was a failure on our part, and we've got processes in place to make sure that it's posted immediately to the website going forward. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
I was told the other day that the lightings on the street and everything is handled by the power company. Is that true? Because there's some lights out, and
Yeah, it's
you know, especially over to go up to phase 2 on the upper road, it's hard to see that corner. That light is out.
Yeah, so part of the, and to answer your question, I'm not sure. I know typically with utility pole lights, the utility company can take care of them. We're a unique entity though. So normally I would feel safe saying, yeah, absolutely, it's a utility company. Here I'm not so sure. That is something we're looking at. Part of our survey of all the sites and roadways is a lighting survey. I know that we had some lights out here that weren't working correctly, and this parking lot gets very dark. So it's on our radar, but not something we fixed yet. But I appreciate you bringing it up. Yeah.
What about the sign? Are they ever gonna get that lit up again at
The entrance sign, are we ever going to get it lit up?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's been out for
Yeah.
a long time.
Can you make a note of that? I know we've noted that before. It got on a schedule. I'm not sure where it's at on that schedule. As you know, we lost Brad, our maintenance manager, so I'll double check on that. We need we're tucked back in here, and so if we've got a sign that's not working properly, we definitely need it working properly because we're hidden. Yes, sir.
I've been told that the workers, a lot of the work campers who have lived in phase 4 for a long time, of course, many of them have built up around their units. And I understand that if they're not working during the winter, they gotta move?
Correct. Yeah. Yep. And it's for that reason. You know, there's repairs that need to be done in phase 4. We're not meant to be a permanent site. So what could happen is somebody could come in, get what they consider a premier site, and then somebody else comes in and they've been on that site for say 5-6 years. Mm-hmm. One, we can't get in there and repair it. And 2, they're taking up that site as kind of a permanent residence, which is not what we are. So ensuring there is movement even in phase 4 is important. I know that there are a lot of people, that's a big change for a lot of people. And we're gonna work through that. But that's a change I think that's necessary. That was my call, something that I did. So
So I felt sorry for them.
Yeah, yeah. And I get that, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's not a permanent residence, and we have to be very careful to ensure that we don't become that. We need to access those sites and make repairs as well, and survey them, so, yeah.
But they can move elsewhere on the park and be here full-time, correct?
Absolutely, as long as they're owners, which most of them are. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They can also utilize winter storage, just like.
So we're not throwing them off the park.
No, ma'am, not at all, not at all.
That's what he was thinking.
No, nobody's getting thrown off the park. But in the past, you would work camp, or you would, well, it mostly affects work campers or seasonal employees, right? They would work, and then the season would come to an end. They would be laid off, and they would stay there for the 30 days, and then move right into the time frame where nobody had to move, and then get hired back on before that gap ended. So they would just stay year round for multiple years. So.
What about those decks and stuff down there? They gotta go?
What about the decks? Yeah, all the decks should be designed in a way that they can be moved. The rules on that, Amy, are 4 foot by 4 foot sections, correct? Yeah.
They're all in sections down there, going to be taken apart.
Yeah, they're all in sections, so they can be moved and set back up. Yeah, it's a balance, because we've got employees that, I mean, they do live on park. They contribute to our organization. We love them, and unlike some people that are coming to camp just for a couple of weeks and then leave, we've got some with families, and they would like to have a deck, and I fully support that 100%. But they do need to be built in a way that they can be disassembled and moved to another site, or taken off site. And they've done that. So, yes, sir.
And forgive me for even saying this, but there are a few in phase 4. I mean, I know they work here, they're permanent, but the sites look like trailer trash.
So he's saying that some of the sites in phase 4, as an owner, he's concerned about because they don't reflect.
And maybe that's my view and not someone else's view, but.
So it's not the first time that I've heard that. We had one site in particular that was pretty bad at one point in time that's got cleaned up, and we work with those individuals to ensure that their site reflects Treasure Lake, especially for prospective owners that are coming through. So we're working through that, but it's on the radar.
There are a lot of us feel that way. I mean, they've been here a long time. If you want to see what permanent party would do to the park, just go to phase 4.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I'm kind of ignorant about the golf cart situation with the permits. What's the thinking behind that?
The thinking behind the permits?
Yeah.
Are you
I don't
talking about
mind,
the
I just-
insurance?
Right.
Yeah, it's just ensuring that the golf cart's insured.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it a way to keep track of how many carts are in here too, or nothing like that? Okay.
I don't use that data for anything other than making sure that they're insured at this current time. Yeah.
Okay. And how are we doing with the electric? I know we haven't been here for a year, but the last time we came down like 2 or 3 times in the summer months, especially during heat, we had a lot of old transformers in here, and I talked to Lenny at the time and he explained that all that equipment's old. So are we doing anything to update this, or just facing problems as they come?
As of now, facing problems as they come.
Okay.
But like I said, we're working on that long-term plan.
Sure, okay.
And if you have interest in serving on that committee, please reach out to the board. Lael is heading that committee up, and we want to look at all of those things. This long-term plan really should be a blueprint for ensuring that we're addressing things before they become major catastrophic problems that require immediate decisions. We want to plan for the next 10, 15 years, and then have a strategic plan that ensures that we're progressing toward those larger goals, and then an annual, organizational plan for the 1 year.
We'll have a built-in prevention then.
Eventually we'll get there. But we've not done a great job at preventative service and maintenance. And there's lots of reasons for that. And I want to make it very clear that the maintenance department does an amazing job, and they work their tails off. So I'm not saying that our maintenance department is not doing a good job. I'm saying there's not been an emphasis on planning for the future. It's been reactive and not proactive. So I want to get us in the mindset of being proactive while still being able to address the concerns that pop up, because they're always going to happen. But let's shift our focus instead of right here, where are we going?
Okay, good deal.
Yes, sir.
Just a thought about our phase 4. I distinguish the difference between work campers and employees. And I think employees deserve privacy. And it would be, I think, just a suggestion, if there was a designated area in phase 4 where employees can park, and even a fence that wouldn't allow us to drive into their area, their employees, it's their home.
So just to recap, if the microphone didn't pick that up, he is suggesting that he believes there's a difference between employees and work campers, right? And that you believe that employees need a separate area on the park that is possibly fenced off to prevent people to give them privacy. That you're not the first person that's brought that to me. Certainly something we can look at. I don't feel like I've got enough information now. Yeah, just a suggestion, yeah, something to put out there. And I appreciate that feedback. Yes, ma'am.
All employees and work campers, I should say this wrong, they're not all members, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So her question was, not all employees and work campers are members, and that's correct. We have such a unique organization. It's a beautiful mosaic. And when I first got here, it took some time for one, when I heard work campers, I was like, this is illegal. Okay, I got to go look at some laws, because they're donating so much time to us, and it far outweighs what they're donating to us far outweighs what we're compensating them with. And I thought, for sure, this is like, we're in hot water. We're not. Just to let you know, it's a thing, and I was ignorant to it, but I'm well versed in it now. But we've got work campers that are owners. We've got work campers that aren't owners. And I don't know if that's true right now, but we could have, right? We've got employees that are owners. We've got employees that aren't owners. We've got seasonal employees that are owners, seasonal employees that aren't owners. It's just this awesome kind of melting pot of people that make Treasure Lake amazing in what it is. It also makes it very hard to draw any distinctive lines when it comes to HR. So it's something that we're kind of walking through. And I was kind of appalled at first when somebody said, well, we've got work campers and we've got employees. And when I first got here, I feel like there was kind of a, how do I put this? Not a rivalry, but there was this kind of fuzzy line, and there was some not great feelings about how work campers felt they were being treated. And so one of the first things that I did was, if you're a work camper, you're an employee, you're part of this subset of Treasure Lake family. We've got a big family, and we've got this smaller family in the family that ensures Treasure Lake Park is operating. Because I don't want anybody, part-time employee, seasonal employee, work camper, full-time employee, we're all on the same team. So when we have all staff meetings, it's not like we have all staff meetings and then we have work camper meetings. No, we have an all staff meeting because everybody in that pod is part of that staff. So, but it's a unique situation that I've had to learn and kind of navigate. And I feel like it's gotten better. My decision with phase 4 has hurt that relationship. And to close phase 4 to people that aren't currently working has hurt that relationship. Has hurt that relationship.
Oh.
I think there are many work campers that that abrupt change hurt them. So I'm currently navigating that. I'm not to the point where now I'm saying it's a mistake or not a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. I'm human. But I've learned a lot through this process, and I will reevaluate next year as well. And I think that's all a leader can do. You have to make calls, you have to make decisions, see what the impacts are, learn as much about what the impacts are going to be beforehand, see what the true impacts are, and then reevaluate. That's all that we can do. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a minimum contract term for work campers?
Is there a minimum contract term for work campers? No, there's not a minimum. I don't know of any set amount of time on that. I don't know that we've ever done one that short, and don't know that we would. They would typically be for at least 6 months. Yeah. Again, that's part of this HR process that we're building. It is way more complicated than any other business or nonprofit that I've been a part of or consulted with, because we don't just have, a set of policies just for employees or just for work campers. Do we need that? Because they're very different working relationships. One is a contract and they're donating a lot of time, and that's different than somebody you're paying full time. So we're currently navigating and learning that right now. What do we want that to look like? In the future, I would like to have set contracts that we stick to. If we say it's 6 months, it's 6 months. If it's 12 months, it's 12 months. So
There is one big difference between a work camper here and a work camper at a for-profit RV park. Here, the work campers are basically working for like $4 an hour. I don't know what it is this year, with our current rates, but it ain't much. And most of them put in more than the 24 hours and get nothing for it. So they're doing it because they love the park. For-profit campground, from what I've heard, most work campers, they get their site, plus they get a wage on top of that. And they work a set number of hours and that's it. So there is a big difference between us and other campgrounds as far as work camping.
So just to summarize, he said there's a big difference between most for-profit campgrounds that have work campers and our campground that utilizes work campers, being that most of them pay a wage on top of the site, and then most of our work campers volunteer additional hours above and beyond what they're contracted to do, and I think you're absolutely right. We've got an amazing group of people, employees in general, and our work campers go above and beyond at every opportunity. And this park would not function, without our work campers.
When I was
Yes,
working security, we had an option to either just go just the work camper schedule, or if we wanted additional pay, we had an option to get into the 2 or 3 different.
Yeah, right now we've got 24. We've got 2416, and then we've got paid employees that aren't in the work camper category. Some people work 24, and then they donate a bunch of hours as owners. Some that are 2416 and then donate hours on top of that as well. So again, like I said, we wouldn't be here without our work campers. They're awesome.
Well, the work campers that you have, I know we have a lot that come back every year,
Mhm.
gone for the winter to Texas or wherever. Do they have to reapply and then start over every year?
Yes, yeah. Any position that's seasonal would have to reapply. Yeah.
But do we ever have enough work campers?
Do we ever have enough work campers? Yeah. I mean,
We get about winter.
yeah.
And for winter right now, is it like, no one's gonna be hired for winter?
On the work camper side?
Yeah.
Probably not. The positions that, well, I take that back. We've got some in housekeeping.
Yes,
And
we
we're
need-
bringing on a couple. Yeah. Work campers and housekeeping. But other than that, unless we have turnover of a position, so like our security staff right now is all work campers. Even our officer in charge is a work camper. So if one of those people were to leave, we would need to replace that. So, yes, sir.
Is an employee a part of his wages, his site?
Is an employee's is part of their compensation package a free site? Yeah, if they're not a member. There are circumstances where that happens, has happened in the past, as you know, part of a, hey, we're not paying, you know, as much as we'd like to for this position, but we're also going to offer this additional benefit as long as you're employed. Now, if they're not employed, then they're asked to leave. But I don't think every single employee gets that as a benefit. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm pretty confused because a lot of this I didn't understand. But you said earlier that this is not a full-time campground, but evidently there are some full-time employees that stay here full-time.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I can't add.
They work year-round.
Okay, but I was just confused because I thought that like the other people that are members or even some of the work members are not allowed to stay here full-time. I'm just confused.
Yeah, it's a complicated system that's been built up over time. So any time that you've got a long history like we have and decisions that are made incrementally and not with a long-term view of what needs to happen, you have these scenarios that kind of intermingle, and that's one of them. We do have full-time employees that stay on park year-round.
And I'm not criticizing.
Yeah.
Question. I understand that they work here full-time, but not all full-time employees work and live at the same place. So to me, a full-time employee, it's like if you work anywhere. You have your life and then you go to work and you come home. So that's what's confusing.
So I'm going to summarize so that the camera can pick it up. It's confusing that we have some people that are full-time employees that live here full-time, when in most situations a full-time employee working on a job doesn't live at where they work. They've got their home life, they've got their work life, and there's some separation there. Is that a good summary?
A good summary, plus the fact that some of the work campers are not allowed to stay full-time or to stay on one site full-time.
Yeah. And contrasting that against work campers that are not allowed to stay on one site full-time year-round. And I think the distinguishing factor for me there is when they're moving, when they're not allowed to stay at one site, they're not an employee at that time, they're an owner. So some owners would say, I understand this is an employment perk, they're not employed, why do they get to stay there year-round? So that would be the other side of that argument. Does that make sense?
I get it, but it doesn't clear up my confusion about the employees that can stay at one site. I'm not saying I disagree with it.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how you get that. I understand the compensation part of it, if you're not quite paying what they should get.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not even a work camper, so it's nothing.
Yeah.
Don't understand how you would sift that out as to who gets what.
Yeah, it's complicated. Like I said, we're rebuilding our entire HR systems. And we're doing our best to understand the totality of the situation and make consistent calls and policies. So I know that didn't clear anything up for you, and I'm sorry. I wish I had a better answer. But in my mind, if you're an employee and part of your benefit package, whether you're a work camper or a full-time or a part-time that's been offered a site as part of your compensation, that part of the compensation ends. And part of the perk is you don't have to move. I mean, that's part of that perk. If you're not employed, that's no longer a perk. You revert back to an owner only. And if you're not an owner, you're off the park within 24 hours. So that's where that distinction in my mind is. So.
Didn't we say that they would have to reapply, work campers have to reapply? Well, how did the people that wanted to be a work camper, how would they know what's available to apply for?
Yeah. So her question is, if work campers have to reapply, how do they know what's available to apply for? I wasn't here in the past, so I can't speak to it, but from what I understand, it was very and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, but it seemed to be very chaotic. Like, you know, what do we need right now, like in the next 5 days? Okay, let's hire for that. When we build our budget, we're looking at a very strategic approach to how many positions do we need in each team, in each department, to ensure the success of Treasure Lake. Because if we don't have those clear positions, we're hiring for a person and not a position. And as a leader of an organization, that's not something you can do. You have to make that distinction, because I got a big heart and I'd hire everybody, okay? And Treasure Lake would fail without that distinction. So we have a set number of positions. We're gonna find the best people to fill those positions, okay? So, yeah, so next year that will be advertised. We've already got something on, what's the website called? No, the other one, the workcamper.com. We do have a general ad on workcamper.com that says here are the areas that we will be hiring for in the 2025 season, so we're accepting applications. And the work campers that have left this year have told their supervisor whether or not they want to return or not. So we will be contacting them directly and saying, hey, are you applying for this? So.
Well, I think if we're short on housekeeping, do we go out of the park or employment agency or something to find some for the season?
Indeed. Yeah. So we've, in the past, again, kind of broken HR system a little bit. We really didn't have an avenue or a path. Like, okay, step one, we post the position on these sites. Then we, you know, there was no process. It was every manager kind of did their own thing. And then there was no process once they were hired for like, okay, day one, you complete your new hire packet, and then you meet the department heads and the GM, and then you take a tour of the park. And there was none of that. I think some people received the benefit of that, others did not. Some people were just kind of thrown in. So we're defining that process now, but right now as it looks, so for example, we're hiring a head of housekeeping, we're hiring a head of maintenance, we are hiring maintenance techs, we are hiring housekeepers. We just filled our storage coordinator position. So Glenda Martin is leaving storage. We have moved Michael Hayden, who's currently in reservations, into that storage spot. So those positions are posted on Indeed. We have an initial video interview with anybody that meets the qualifications of the job. So we do an initial screening. We'll go through and say, you know, this person wants to work maintenance, but they've got no experience in maintenance whatsoever. They're not going to be considered. We remove them from the pool. We get it down to say 10 people that have, you know, experience that matches the job they're applying for. The ones that we do turn away, if they've got experience in something else that we're hiring, we forward that on to that hiring manager as well. And then we do a video interview with those individuals. From them, we narrow it down again. I mean, you guys all know this process, and then you do an in-person interview with those 5, as long as they're within town. If they're in Colorado and they're a work camper, we would do another video interview with them as well. Then we make an offer. This was not procedure before. Before it was just, they would show up and we're really not sure. They would never get an offer letter. They may or may not get a job description. We've got a very clear process now. They get an offer letter. At that point, they get background screened. Once the background screen comes back, then we do a drug test. If the drug test passes, then they're ready to start their first day. When they come in their first day, they start their new hire paperwork with one person, Tammy, who has a checklist. Have they completed all the required forms to ensure Treasure Lake doesn't get in trouble legally if legal action takes place down the line? Have they signed all the policies and procedures? Have we hit the highlighted areas? Hey, know that these are terminable offenses, like do not do X, Y, Z. Do they understand our culture and how our park is modeled? If they're not owners, all that is being built right now.
So there really, is there or will there be an organizational chart you referred to?
Yeah, we have an organizational chart. We need to look at getting that out.
What is that?
Right now, it's nowhere that can be accessed by an owner. I've got it on my computer.
Okay.
So we looked at, just to backtrack a little bit, when I first got here, we had, I believe, 13 positions reporting directly to the general manager. They were all department heads. And that was not feasible for me. That's not something, I can't lead 13 people well. There needed to be a reorganization to take place. So we divided the organization. Instead of having 13 departments, we've got 3 departments: admin department, operations department, and programs and marketing department. Internally move people into those department head positions. And then instead of departments, we would have teams. So each team would fall under one of those departments. So for example, Amy, Director of Programs and Marketing, activities falls under her, food and beverage falls under her, and then we have our marketing, which is kind of an ad hoc team. Meaning we're not hiring a bunch of people for marketing. The marketing team is made up of owners and staff that are serving outside of their normal capacity to ensure that we've got a marketing plan with input. So.
Who is, if we have an HR director, who is that person?
We don't have an HR director. We've got an HR coordinator, Tammy Stouffer. So you all know Tammy. She's been here for a long time. Yes, sir.
Do you have employees that are working here but they don't stay here?
Yeah, I'm one of them. I live in Forsyth.
No, I mean, like your maintenance and that, if you got people that...
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got several employees that don't stay on the park.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Stephen, I really respect your organizational skills and
Can you say that louder?
I said I do appreciate your organizational skills and how you're restructuring management. I do want to say that as campers, our interaction is mostly out on the park with the employees. And we want to see the same culture that we've enjoyed all these years stay the same. While there may be management changes and operational changes, I hope we stay the same, friendly, and we hope to see more of you guys out there on the park occasionally with us.
So, well, that messes up my plan. We're going to become corporate Walmart. Darn, I'm just kidding. I couldn't agree 100%. When I talk about culture, I'm not talking about changing the fundamental culture of our park, which is we all love being here. Everybody that's here loves camping. We're a family, right? I don't want that. Don't ever think that I'm trying to push us toward like a corporate mentality where you get a number and you stand in a line and nobody knows your name. So know that. And that culture, the culture changes that are happening, were the pieces of that culture that weren't handled well. Where employees, one of the biggest one is employees did not feel heard. They didn't feel respected. I can't work in an environment where I feel that way or people that are working with me feel that way. So those are changes that we had to make. And communication was a big one.
And chaotic before, I'll just tell you.
Yeah.
It's good to have that leadership.
I appreciate that, yeah. We do have we've got a great team of people. We've got amazing owners. There were some issues in connecting those two and making sure that everybody was experiencing that. And I think we're on our way to fixing that. So, yeah.
You did?
Yes, ma'am. I'm over 9 minutes, so I'm totally messing with you.
So, this is just a comment. I think it's impressive how much work is being done, like with the tree trimming and cutting some of the dead trees. I think that's a huge improvement. And then I had a question that goes back to these memberships that are gonna be for sale.
Yeah.
So at $1,000 price, which is a good price, does that come with that $200 payback when somebody buys one of those memberships on your number?
Yes.
So does that takes away from our $1 million?
Okay, I said yes.
I don't think so.
Let me check with the board on that.
I don't think so.
We bought one off the courtyard steps last year for my son, and it does not include.
Okay.
I mean, it included all of our titling and stuff, but we weren't eligible for the $250.
For the referral. Okay. That's a great question. I thought I was completely prepared on this, and that's a good question, because as soon as I said it, I thought, no, that doesn't make any sense. So let me get with the board. If you don't know, if you refer somebody under normal circumstances, you get a $200 check. So you can do that at any time today. Go make that $200. But as far as part of the membership sale that we're doing, the 1,000 memberships at $1,000, let me check on that and get back to you. Yeah. So when I say I'll get back to you, I will bring that answer at the next meeting. And if you're not here on Park, you can watch it on Facebook for the response. If you pick up my card on your way out and email me, I'll email you directly as well. Okay?
Will there be a meeting next Saturday because the holiday craftsman will be here? Isn't it next Saturday that you'll be here?
Yes.
So the meeting will still be in here?
Yes, the meeting will still be in here. Yes. We'll just have more people.
You're in overtime.
I know I'm in overtime. It's all right. I really do. I want you guys to know I enjoy these Meet the Manager meetings. I learn a lot. I feel like everybody gets on the same page, and I'm able to dispel a lot of rumors and myths, and then I create some while I'm here too, just to mix things up. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
I just have a quick comment on the topic of Phase 4 and its appearance. I'm not for putting a fence up because a lot of times it gets worse on the other side of that fence. We come from an area that we have no zoning, but we have enough property to have tree lines so that we can't see what the neighbors are, what they look like. But in our little area right here, we have 5 people we have like an HOA. Couldn't they do that for Phase 4 and have a committee that approves and disapproves to keep the standards up?
So his question was, can we form kind of a mini HOA in Phase 4 that ensures that standards are kept up? I would consider all ideas when looking at next year. I mean, I would like to think that our culture, whether they're an employee and certainly if they're an owner, would ensure that anybody staying anywhere would ensure that their camper was kept and their area was kept pristine and in good condition that reflected positively on Treasure Lake. I know that that's wishful thinking.
That's the hope, but what I'm saying is if you put a fence up,
Yeah,
they're
I understand what you're
they're
saying.
not being supervised by anybody else's opinion, and you've got a park here that's beautiful.
And I'm not saying, yes, we're gonna put up a fence. I'm not even close to making a decision on those things yet. Did you raise your hand?
I did. I'm down in 4. And we've tried going around to people. Last year, we asked if we could possibly fix up Phase 4 so that we don't get called trailer trash or, and so we went around and we've planted flowers to try to fix it up. Some people went down. You've got some people that don't, but we have no authority to tell them to do that. But Phase 4, all those people down there, we take pride. We've done a lot of work. There's 3 or 4 people that get down there. We know that maintenance is busy, so they get out there with their backpacks and their leaf blowers, and they go out there and they blow all the leaves down, out of the way so that people could get through. And during the snow, they're out there trying to help them and stuff. So we've come a long ways. We've still got some ways we got to go, but we take pride down there. It's not like we're just down there, trying to get a free place to live or whatever. We really do work down there because we love the park.
And again, just to piggyback on that, I will say that when you're thinking about the work camper positions, I think it's easy for some people to say, well, yeah, of course they would go and work, 24 hours to get a free site. That's a lot of money. But at the end of the day, I don't know a single work camper that only works there 24. They work above and beyond that. And if you do the math on that wage, it is minuscule. Which is why when I first came here, I'm like, this is illegal. This has to be illegal. There's no way this is legal. And it again, like I said, it totally is. But
and the majority of the work campers don't care that it's $4 and some odd cents an hour. We do it.
yeah,
because,
for the park.
Well, you don't even do it as much as for the campsite. You do it because the park is hurting and they need help. And
Yeah.
you go back and you do the work camping because you're trying to help the park.
Yeah.
Every person in rock and roll is a work camper, except for Bruno. And we we are ones that put in more than our 24 hours. We don't tell people we put in more than our 24 hours because we don't expect anything.
Yeah.
So,
But it is important to highlight, what the work campers are doing for the organization. And I do want to dispel any myths that, like, it's an easy campsite. Everybody's working extremely hard. That's a work camper. So if you do have that mental image, go talk to a work camper, hear about their schedule, hear about the extra stuff that they do. Don't get it from me, go get it from them. Because they are working extremely hard. And like I said, we wouldn't have a park without work campers.
a good example is to come in on a Friday or Saturday night when we're doing fish.
Yeah, the line for fish.
I know you got turned away 3 or 4 times because
Yeah.
it's a line and you've got to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work, and we've lost a lot of people because of leaving the park right now. Some reasons because they had to move or whatever, but we're going to be down to 5 people next week. So when you come get your fish, be patient.
Be patient, yeah.
Because there's 5 of us, and we've got 1 person on the register. We know we got an ice cream and a thing, but we've got 1 person because that other person has to be back plating the food. 1 has to be on the grill. 1 has to be. We've only got a little bitty old fryer that Bobby does all the fish in, and people don't realize until they've come back and watched or they're at the register and they have to wait for their turn. We bread and cut and do everything to that fish. It's not pre-made. So when you have to wait, we only got like a little fryer to cook it in, and it takes time.
Yeah,
And
I've
so-
been on that fryer.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why it tastes so good. It's not just out of a box thrown in a fryer. Yes, ma'am.
It's just an observation. We were gone last winter, but when we came back in this spring and this fall, I saw a tremendous improvement in the appearance of Phase 4. And it's just not as a developed phase as some of the others, but I saw a huge improvement in the appearance.
So she said that she's seen a huge improvement in Phase 4 in the way it looks just over the past year. So, and I think that's accurate. I think there's been strides made. As Debbie said, we've still got a little bit of ways to go, but we do across the entire park. So.
And Phase 4 does need a lot of work. We don't have very many concrete sites down there, and if they are, they're kind of crooked.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are gravel, and that's part of the reason why a lot of the decks went in there, because
They wanted a level place to sit. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the ground kept washing away and stuff, and you couldn't go out there and sit, and the campers, would sink.
Yeah.
So a lot of people did it on their own, of their own funds, of going through there and putting stuff under so that we could keep our campers level. I'm in a handicap spot because my husband, but there's a lot of people that don't have
Yeah.
concrete, so.
Yes, sir.
One thing most people aren't aware of, members, I'm not working this year, but I worked in maintenance for over 20 years, stayed in Phase 4. Just about all of them block walls and that gravel has been put in by the people living there on their own time. Now, the park did furnish the blocks, they furnished the gravel, but we all did that on our own time.
They jumped in and worked on that beautification, themselves. And you're absolutely right. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, you mentioned the $200 bonus pay people receiving for referring. Do you know how much we get from that? I mean, is it very successful, or is it even needed, or how much we take in? I mean, we pay out a year for it.
How much we pay out a year? I don't know the exact number. I know that I sign at least 2 checks a week. So I would say the majority of the memberships that we sell come from some sort of referral. Yeah. I don't want to say majority, because that's probably a mischaracterization. But and I probably don't sign 2 every single week, but it is common for me to sign one of those referral checks. I'll say that.
I just didn't know how successful it was, or if it worked.
Yeah. I mean, I think knowing that they're getting referred over works. It was funny. Last night it was, 5, and the welcome center was closed, and I heard Annie's voice in George's office. So I totally Kramered the door, and it was not Annie. It was George and a new member. So I was like, "Oh, hi! I just wanted to come meet you. Yeah, how are you doing?" And we got to talking, and they're here because a friend was like, "You have to come check out Treasure Lake," a current owner. So they had never been to Branson before. They had no affiliation other than that friend, had never heard about Treasure Lake, came down, George gave them a tour, showed them around, and they're sold. So, yeah. You gotta let me leave, or you got any more questions? I'll stay here.
Well, I want to leave, but I just want to say, like, we're full-timers. We found our membership at a place where we bought a camper. But this winter, Treasure Lake has given me several packets to take along. And across the Southwest where we stay, we're going to leave a packet, hoping that people will see it and be drawn to Treasure
Yeah.
Lake. Because it's a small, I mean, out west, they would never find us.
Yeah, yeah. So she's saying sales has given her packets that she's gonna drop off in the Southwest to make sure people know that we're here and will come visit us.
I carry packets all over Florida.
All over Florida.
I don't know who came in and who didn't. Okay.
We're looking at, we're looking at ways that we can measure the effectiveness of some of this stuff. We're not there yet, obviously, but we do a great job at tracking who comes in after a show. Like I can tell you that anytime we go out and spend money on attending a show, we get a return on that during that year. Any shows that we've not seen a return on, we don't go to anymore. And George is very excited about the upcoming year. We've got right now 5 on the books for places that we're going to go. We've got some new vertical banners, because before we stood there at a booth that really didn't have a lot of marketing material and a free TV, and that was what we did. And George would hand out candy and sign stuff. Act like he was a big deal, and sign stuff, and you want my autograph, and he would bring people up, and then he would sell the membership. So we're looking at new strategies. We've got some vertical banners that he's going to be taking along with us. We're looking at different prizes that we can use to bring people in. So
Years ago, when the prices were really high, and we were much younger couple, we went to an RV show. I think it was either Hot Springs or Little Rock. Anyway, Treasure Lake was there. We knew nothing about it. They were giving away rolls of toilet paper that had the Treasure Lake logo on it. And that was what they were giving away at the show, and they gave us a roll. We kept that roll of toilet paper forever. We didn't join until, much later on. But
then there was an emergency.
It was toilet paper with the logo on it. It was funny.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that. We're actually looking at swag next week. Teresa and George are doing some research on some things they'd like to see, and we're going to decide what we want to do. So, yeah, we're excited about next year. There's a lot of great things coming. One of the things that I struggle with is, it's like I'm in a dark room with a flashlight, right? And I can focus on something, put my attention on something. We can work really hard at it and move it, but if we do, nothing else moves. So I'm in this place where we're trying to move a whole bunch of stuff forward, but it's incremental and it's going to take time. And I've had people come up to me and say, we're seeing great improvements, and I appreciate that feedback. Also tell our staff, it is certainly not me that's out there implementing this stuff. So tell our staff you appreciate them. We're going to see changes. It's going to take some time, but we're going to see continued incremental change across the park. Good change. So somebody asked about the roofs, and I didn't ever actually finish that, I don't think. So the roofs are going to start in like a couple of weeks. That's how quickly it's going to start. So Branson Roof Co. is going to start replacing this roof, that roof, and the Welcome Center roof here really soon. So December. Yeah. December's when they're going to come in and start. Yeah, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It came in this week and it had like 3 foot of water in it again. So, but yeah, and the plan is currently to shelf that, do like 2 shelves of depth. So ensure that bank, it's not going to be a gradual where that stuff can grow up again. We're going to shelf that bank, pull it out. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming. Yep. I do have business cards over there if you'd like to grab one. It's got my email and phone number on it as well. Thank you all for coming.